But I'm not.
Hello, Geeks Assembled, and today we are discussing a 2001 movie, what was shall we say, a box office flop. But within 4 years, it got a director's cut and became a cult classic. We are talking Donnie Darko, a very, a very eerie film, sort of make think, and starring Jake Gyllenhaal. So we will go around this cast here and we'll go with the opening thoughts from the guys. Let's go to Craig and David first. Opening thoughts on Donnie Darko.
What is Donnie Darko about? I have no idea. At least not a conscious one. But somehow I've always understood it. And the most amazing thing about making this movie for me was the fact that no one, including the man from whose mind it emerged, ever had a simple answer to this question. And that, ironically, is the very thing the film is actually about. There is no single answer to any question. Every person's explanation differs according to how they were brought up, where they were brought up, and who brought them up.
Yeah.
This seems like a very simple answer to a perplexingly complex movie. But when you think about it, it gets to the very crux of what we all seem to take for granted. Our own minds, how they differ,
Yep.
and that we're all entitled to our own interpretation.
Very good.
Well read.
Yeah,
Well
Jake
read.
Gyllenhaal.
There you go.
And Dave, what's your thoughts?
Well, as it's like following on from like last week's, it seems like it's quite popular at the moment. Mental health issues. The thing is, like in Johnny Darko, I think
I've got them.
yeah, you got it. Oh, what ones have you got? No, Johnny Darko is like it's just a strange movie because it seems to take two paths. One side where when Donnie is hit by the fallen fuselage of the plane or the engine or whatever it is, and then the other one he actually survives, and it's like what would happen? It's all like what if types of movie, you know, which is quite interesting. You know, I think all the other characters, like even though they're not like cameos, but everyone seems to like an integral part, like a jigsaw puzzle.
It's like a paradox.
It is all the time, like, yeah, and a conundrum wrapped up in a puzzle, you know, and it's really interesting. I must have watched it about 10 times. I still don't really get the full gist of it, but there's something really interesting and intriguing about the whole thing, you know. And if it was Jake, what's his surname? Jake Gyllenhaal's one of his first movies, like
his sister.
And his sister, yeah, very, very good, you know.
And Leo's cousin.
Oh, so it was a whole family affair. It was a total family affair.
But I think we covered the soundtrack before, and the soundtrack is just great as well. So
well, exactly. I mean,
really complements
echoing the Bunnymen classic, you know, Tears for Fears, who were really big at the time, like, you know, and then that spurned the Christmas #1 way back. I think it was 2008, maybe 2006, maybe. Of you know, the song, like, you know, but and also they said they shot the scenes when Patrick Swayze's playing the therapist, like on his own ranch, like, you know, it's quite interesting. Uses his own clothes and all that, you know. And anything with Drew Barrymore is great, you know. She's really got depth and she's an interesting person. Yeah, I think it was interesting. And the link with Harvey, which we'll talk about later, is quite interesting because in both movies is a giant bunny, or not so giant in Donnie, but later on. Over to you, Lee.
Thank you. We'll go to Susan next. What's your thoughts, Susan?
Let me sort this out for a sec. Here am I trying to get out to stick in the camera all takes a dive. This is a movie about people getting their comeuppance. This is a movie about people getting their just desserts. This is a movie that is it's random and fun and stream of consciousness and stream of reality. Like each person's reality, their stream takes them to these certain crux points, and then whether or not they do the right thing or don't do the right thing It all comes out in the end. It's like it's all out in the wash. Anyway, I really love the soundtrack, and I really love the movie itself, and it's incredible. And yeah, it's got a cast that you just can't even believe.
Yeah.
So many great people in it. People like Noel Wiley and Seth Rogen and Drew Barrymore, like David was saying, and Catherine Ross and Lisa K. Wyatt and what's that other lady's name? Hang on just a second. One moment, please. Oh, Beth Grant. Yeah.
Beth Grant, that's right, yeah.
Crazy cool cast.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, the force majeure of this was that the rabbit was the driver. Basically, the rabbit was in the driver's seat. Everybody else was kind of in process with this. And it's not about despising the process in this movie, although it is rather dark and depressing. The process is interesting. So yeah, and I could never be as eloquent as Craig was on his opening remarks, but back over to you, Lee.
But it's
Thank
funny
you,
what
Susan.
Sorry, what Susan said.
He was only because he was reading it. We know Craig well. We'll go over to Jim Bradley now.
Well, I heard a lot of things about this film going into it. It's a film that I've seen on my DVD shelf at home. My mum's spoken about, but it's my first time sitting down and watching it. What the fuck was going on? It's what I'm taking out from this experience. I had no fucking idea that was going on, apart from Jake Gyllenhaal looked fit in this, and there's some demonic 6-foot bunny. That's all I was getting off. Although I will say it was a very good film about mental health that I think Craig touched upon earlier. And I like films like that's why I enjoyed Joker so much. I just love films with the aspect of mental health. It's a very interesting way of going into mental health, but still I couldn't make ass from tip what was going on in the whole entire film. Over to Bradley.
A bit like Ghostlight.
Yeah.
Like Jake, I've heard a lot about the film before, but I've never seen it. But it's like a very surreal film, but it is quite interesting and like with a lot of good performances, and like the way the story's told. Like even the director's cut sort of aims to explain it a little bit, but it's still you really don't know what's going on, but that's still sort of interesting.
Yeah, totally agree. What I'm saying about Darko is it takes more than viewing to sort of understand certain things what are going on. Because you see one thing first time you see it, next time you view it, you do something else. Yeah, it's very intriguing movie. It's got a big cult following. But for me, what I got out of it was this time travel aspect of it. And he was talking about the wormholes. Now,
that's because he was inspired.
I was to assume that the wormholes were those things what was dragging the bodies. So if it was wormholes, he's seeing a parallel universe of what was happening in that parallel universe, and then when it ended, he'd die and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's an intriguing movie. So what's your favourite moments or things you didn't like? Over to Jake and Bradley.
I like the bit when Donnie Darko was in the toilet and that giant 6-foot bunny thing was there and he was trying to stab it. I
Oh, yeah.
almost thought that it was going to get really dark and he goes to stab it, he like stabs his sister in the face or something. I thought something like that was going to happen. A little bit disappointed it didn't happen because I thought it had a more like that mentally damaging aspect of the film. But any bit of the like demonic, scary as fuck bunny thing, the only bit with the bunny I didn't like was when he took his mask off. I think it sort of ruined how. I know it was a plot device, but I think it did ruin how scary this demonic bunny was. Just pulling off his face and there's some dodgy Kylo Ren lookalike. It's like, oh, okay, that's just taking me out of the whole film sort of thing. Because I thought it was a horror film. I was going into this thinking it was horror, and we got Jake Gyllenhaal getting chased around by his demonic 6-foot bunny. And I didn't even know the bunny spoke when I listened to this. I thought it was one of those silent things. And even the voice sort of threw me off a little bit as well. Because even as creepy as it was, I couldn't really picture that voice with something like this demonic 6-foot. But it wasn't really a 6-foot bunny, really. It was a bloke dressed up as a 6-foot bunny. So that's a bit. And Frank. That's a bit of an odd name to call a 6-foot bunny. Oh, this is my demonic entity friend. His name's Frank. But yeah, I enjoyed the bits with the bunny, like when they're in the bathroom together and he tries to stab it. What's your favourite moment?
My favourite moment is that bit at the end where, well, they tried to, I think, was it they go into the house and then like those like thugs that try and kill them, then Gretchen gets run over by the car. But it sort of brings everything full circle, so you understand why Frank's there, where he gets shot, and that's like why the bunny's there throughout the film. Like, I think I quite like that sort of turning point for that, because I find that quite interesting.
Going on that, what you just said, it is interesting being haunted by the future rather than the past. It's something that you don't see very often in science fiction and stuff like that. But it's quite interesting. Another thing I want to point out is how good the soundtrack of this film was. I love the song Mad World. I love the bit at the end where it's all that song. It sort of fits the film perfectly because I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. All of a sudden he's dead, all of a sudden he's not, all of a sudden shit's falling out of the sky, all of a sudden he's got a gun, all of a sudden he hasn't got a gun, and like, what's going on? But yeah, that's my favourite moment.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you realised or noticed that Frank the Rabbit was Donnie's sister's boyfriend. He was driving a car, he was blowing the horn. He dropped her off at the beginning of the movie, doing the horn of his car.
Right.
Put two and two together when I watched again. That Frank was his sister's boyfriend.
Right.
You see, you land the other thing, but let's to Susan.
My favorite moments were all the moments with Grandma Death. Because and the book. I mean, when you get to those discussions of time travel and things like that and wormholes and then there's like the special effects of the wormhole of the pulling of the people around, but there's also there's also like a actual metaphysical discussion about that too, which is fun. And metaphysics is slightly different from psychology. This could be considered a metaphysical movie and not a psychological movie. Metaphysical being that the rabbit was there to show destiny and otherworldly power, and that's really what Grandma Death was writing about. So anyway, yeah, that's those Grandma Death moments where she's like looking in the mailbox and then she's standing there and like all those sort of connections. That was really intriguing to me. Over to you.
Thanks, Susan. Let's go over to Dynamic Joe and Milfer.
Because at the party, Halloween party, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I thought that's why the boyfriend was dressed up as a rabbit. So I think that Frank is still like an existential creation in his mind, but almost like the Watcher when in the Fifth Doctor, you know, like he's there guiding him or behind him or goading him or however you want to see it.
So Frank's on the way to the party, the Halloween party. I see, right? I didn't realize that.
Like, and I think he was inspired by Sam Raimi. A lot of this is nodded to the Evil Dead with the time tunnels that open up in the Evil Dead, and that's where he got the ideas from that from. And
Are they with us?
my favourites, I like the Smurf scene. They got permission from
They're at it again.
Come on.
You still there?
Yeah, we've got
my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, is it?
It's the story of my life. Patrick Swayze used his own clothes from the infomercials on his ranch.
Right, and also he wanted to shoot down that goody image, like a already built up in Ghost and Dirty Dancing, you know, and playing. It's funny. It also, you know, at the party, Donnie's got a skeleton outfit on, or a skeleton T-shirt, almost like again, like a, you know, sort of like a prophesies his death again, like, you know. But like Susan was saying before, but like the rabbit going down like the Alice in Wonderland, it's the rabbit going down, taking him down the wormhole, or the rabbit hole, you know.
And the movie that they were supposed to see instead of Evil Dead was going to be Chud, CHUD.
And also there was a nod to last week's Vertigo, because when they sit in the movie house, it's Vertigo, that scene. There's a strange little connection there, Lee. You know, but the Einstein.
Everything is connected in the.
Yeah, the Einstein-Rosenberg sort of. It's only a theory, you know. Everything's a theory in life anyway, until proven. But I think it is a possibility that there is some kind of links. It's the sort of time toll. They're saying, where does our universe come from? And if it was like a proliferation of, like a bubble universe pushed out of one into another, you know, so that's what we are. So we're going to push
bubble
something out, yeah, like a fucking bubble wrap, yeah.
I like that's the struggle of like adolescence, and I think they show it really well in this movie.
You're right.
You know how his upbringing has been flawed, and there's the idea that the ideal is the actual ideal is flawed. When he's in discussion with that teacher who's trying to say that there's fear on one end and then love on the other and nothing in between,
yeah,
and he challenges that, just as he challenges society and the speech with Patrick Swayze, who is just a cover for what he really is.
Exactly.
It's almost like Frank has told him and explained, like, this is what's really going on behind the scenes with this guy.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, there's iconic scenes where they're on their bicycles, and it's just like a bit of a nod to E.T. because obviously this Richard Kelly, the director, his inspiration, shout out, comes from Spielberg. So I think Richard Kelly's probably a Stranger Things fan as well, maybe.
I do like the scene where she explains like cellar door was the most beautiful phrase in English language, you know. It is quite pretty. Like, probably a lot of people don't even know what a cellar is, you know, in these modern times, you know. But it is quite a beautiful phrase, that, you know. I thought it was Graham Greene, but apparently it's somebody else. It might have been Huxley. I don't know. Maybe Susan knows, you know. But cellar door, it sounds like something from the 30s or maybe the 20s, you know. Definitely not Shakespeare.
Huxley was Doors of Perception.
Wow. Hey, right. Okay. There you go. That's a great book, Doors of Perception. Actually, this movie,
Seeing is Believing by John Berger.
All right. Okay. Yeah, but I think that was my favorite scene.
Cool. Right, so we've been everybody, haven't we? Me personally, just like the movie. As a century movie, it makes think it's just up. I think, hold on, you know, what are they trying to say here? What are they trying to do here? And then, you know, you go from the beginning to the end and the end to the beginning. It's really well acted. And as we said, the soundtrack is amazing. Two versions, of course, and just cut the original cut. Just a few changes in it, just cut off as much, you know, to write home. So, shall we go to the score? Okay. Susan.
Well, final say is Terry Pratchett's last book, The Long Mars, is about parallel universes and people who are able to step gently, quickly, using boxes or by their own natural ability between worlds. And there's a series of stories with Stephen Baxter that are talking about those parallel worlds and how different and divergent the story goes between them. And so that's, I mean, yes, it's on my mind, but yes, it's also on my radar. And this story is well told, and it's got a great punch in it. It's very dark and scary and morose and interesting. And it's got kindness to it in the fact that all the dirty deeds become revealed in the light. And it's also quite intense, and so the music is absolutely beautiful. The music is of the 80s. It's beautifully of a generation and of a time. And I will give this movie 10 empty mailboxes out of 10.
Jay, over you.
I'm gonna give this a 7, primarily because I said anything that's going on. But on a mindfuckery scale, I will give it a solid 10. But enjoyment-wise, I'll give it a 7.
It's an intriguing film that's I feel is told quite well, even if you don't necessarily understand what's going on. I think the performances and the music and everything, for me, bring it up to an 8.
Thank you too. Over to Chris, David.
I like the cult aspect of this film. It's like almost genius, and it changes things. Like it's a film that's like not scared to not do the status quo, and it's saying like it's okay to make films that don't make sense. But I think I like this film so much because it doesn't make sense. Like the more question marks, the better for me.
I mean, it's
you know, it's got 80s. I mean, it's set in the 80s. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. It's like a stellar cast. Yeah, I just think it's more of like a philosophical discussion, debate, really.
It's like you know, there's always two roads to walk down. It's really interesting. I mean, you think in your own life how many times you take one route and you could have taken another route, and where would you have ended up? You know, so that they just sort of pose them questions, like, which is quite interesting. Like at the end, when he's driving Gretchen away, is she actually dead in the car? Is she gone? Is he going to join her on the other side? Is that what the movie's kind of suggesting? Also, like, you know,
they did an exhibition called They Made Me Do It.
All right.
Which it ran from 6 hours, 42 minutes and 12 seconds for 28 days.
Wow.
I've got some pictures actually from the exhibition.
Ooh. Nice.
There's one of the Smurfs.
Eyes always an intriguing.
Smurfs. Right.
It's Frank.
Frankie.
I'll
Right, so you've both there, haven't you?
I'll give this 10 bunny rabbits out of 10.
Yep, I'll give it 10 also because it's just I can watch it at least 3 or 4 times a year and just find it great.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, very enjoyable. As Craig says, the more questions, the more intrigues me, the more I'll watch it. So for me personally, I think I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and just a second out of 10.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do. So we have now discussed Donnie Darko. We are otherwise what the film is about, really, but that's the thing. So I'd like to you guys, opinioners, in Donnie Darko, and please continue with his Smith parade. You guys, you like what we do, give us a thumb, comment on the video. If you want to join us, please, we're on YouTube, on Facebook, just contact us, get in touch, try and get you on these things. Please, also on YouTube with the videos, you get
Ding the bell.
notification, ding that bell on mobile videos. So until next time, be
They
safe.
made me do it.
Well, always do me with it. Nobody else will. Until next time, keep looking at the sky. Bye for now.
He made me do it. He made me.